the more I thought about what do I say to introduce someone who's written such a fascinating book as the one on Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning, and WikiLeaks, because it burst onto the scene with such intensity, such scope, such breadth. It sort of, you know, I've been in politics my entire life. I pride myself on every single day of reading the Post and the Times and being a somewhat informed person. And then I sort of got away from that, got into the book business, but still surrounded by knowledge. And with everything going on with WikiLeaks, and that was sort of the first tsunami, and then all of a sudden it was the NSA, and then I just sort of, you know, I said, forget it. And, you know, you're involved, you grow up in the 60s and 70s, so there's always this presumption that you're being listened to anyway. We'd always joke, well, you're not being listened to. I said, you want to find out, don't pay your phone bill. You know? If you go 6 months without your phone being cut off, well, then maybe you're talking to some interesting people, but if you get your phone cut off in a month, forget it. You know? Your conversations are totally worthless. But obviously, we've come a long way since not only in collection. I mean, that was sort of eavesdropping in a quaint way, and back then you really had to merit somebody's attention because we really didn't have the resources. You weren't in a sort of a police state then. But you look back now, and it's overwhelming. It's beyond comprehension. And the more I read, the more I'm sitting here surrounded by knowledge, the less of a grasp I really have on what is taking place. And that's what I find so fascinating. What about the WikiLeaks book, but also, you know, what you're approaching on now, discussing now, what's taken place since, you know, with all the NSA disclosures. I mean, they're just mind-boggling. I mean, all right, fine, we're being spied upon. I agree, but when Angela Merkel's cell phone is being plugged, I didn't see that coming. But anyway, enough of that. But most importantly, we are here to listen to Chase. I want to thank Amanda Madar, Chase's mother, for coming here. You have one hell of an advocate in your mother. I think I probably have a lot of people who would suggest that, but deservedly so. It's my pleasure to have you here, and I think everyone is very much interested in what you have to say. And so without any further ado, Chase Madar, he'll come up and speak for a while, and then, you know, after that, as long as he wants to go, then we'll take questions. Q&A. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom Martin. I think you all know what a first-rate bookstore you happen to have here in Chestertown. It's such an important part of our holiday season when we come down here, my wife and I, Boxing Day or the day after, we love to come here and drop major coin on you.
And we love it.
I hope you all do too. Support this place. It's a gem. I take photographs on my phone of the dedicated shelf for Edmund Wilson, the great 20th century American social critic and historian, and then taunt my friends with it by sending it to them. I also want to thank my Mid-Atlantic region publicist. She's kind of aggressive. She's got great Charlie hustle, but that's what it takes to get to plum gigs like this. My mother, Amanda. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight for this Après Post Boxing Day literary event of the season. If you were dragged here by a spouse, a partner, or a parent, or God help you, a spouse's parent, I want you to know I'm just going to talk for about 15 minutes. Hector you for not longer than that, and then we'll break to Q&A, and then we'll just schmooze and booze a bit, and I'm happy to answer more questions as I stand around. So I've written a book about Chelsea Manning, formerly a private in U.S. Army intelligence, who leaked hundreds of thousands of documents, many of them, but not all of them, classified in some way. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about a case that in a way is a fraternal twin of the Manning story, and that's Edward Snowden, whose revelations continue to play out into the new year. It's possible, and it's very often, that these cases are looked at looking at the tension between freedom and security. A balance between freedom and security. That's something you hear a lot. I suppose this approach has its merits, but I think any fight between Lisa Simpson on one hand and Darth Vader usually wins, and security tends to trump everything. So I'm going to look at it and tell you about my thoughts from a different angle, and that's just from the point of view of security. I think the assumption that extreme levels of state secrecy are somehow beneficial for security is deeply flawed. And I also think the assumption that mass surveillance and weakening of cryptographic guards on private data systems and communication systems, that's somehow good for our security, is also deeply flawed and in fact false. So I'm going to look at both stories from the point of view of kind of reptilian realpolitik for what this means for our security. And I think that looking at the balance sheet of security benefits and liabilities, I see what Private Manning did and what Snowden did are both very beneficial for American security in the real sense.